Alright everybody, so by popular demand, I will be doing a deck that I have actually had a few people ask me to put up on the channel now, and actually, I gotta say thank you, first off, for making me try out this deck. I knew about it, I just haven't really tried it too much, and that is the Teemo Sejuani deck. Gotta love it. So, this is actually, it's Freljord P&Z. Basically, the idea is that when your opponent draws a shroom, it procs Sejuani's level up. Also procs her her effect when she is leveled up to frostbite the entire field, and you will see that versus a mid-range Demacia deck in the first game. So as always, if you are new to the channel, my name is Justin, also known as Shit Just Works, and today we're going over a little bit of a meme deck. It's honestly super fun to play. You could maybe ladder with it. I don't recommend it. I highly recommend against it, actually, but it's still fun as all hell, so if you want to go that route, go for it. I won't fault you for it. And yeah, as always, we're going to have a blast going through the deck itself, followed by 2 games. I will say the second game is like a straight int by the opponent. I don't know what they were doing. Usually I don't put those types of games in these videos, but it's just so funny. As you watch it, you're just like, why? 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 Alright, so first and foremost, do not forget to hit that subscribe button. If you are new, you definitely should be subscribed to this channel. Hit the bell. That way you get notified whenever I actually release a new video, which is pretty much daily at this point. And God, do I still have a ton of Legends of Runeterra content coming down the pipe. There is so many viable decks right now. Like, this is such a good metagame for any card game that I've ever played in my life. This is great. So many good decks you can play, including Teemo Sejuani. So let's dive into the deck here, and it is a fun one. So essentially, the goal is to win via Shroom. You're getting the KO through the Shrooms. Gotta love it. And you kind of have Sejuani as more of a backup to, you know, really late game. If for whatever reason, like let's say you're going to get to control deck or a mid-range deck, which is what you'll see in a second, Sejuani kind of helps you to just stall out the game for that couple extra, you know, 1 or 2 turns where everything's frostbitten so that your opponent can draw 1 or 2 more cards, which obviously is going to do a decent amount of damage that late in the game if you're playing the deck right throughout the first portion of the game. So the big thing here is that you are buffing things in your deck. Obviously, it's nice to hit a Teemo, you know, get him buffed up by the time you draw him. That way he's like a 4-4 or 5-5. That's like, you know, the dream. Doesn't always happen, but that's the idea. You have the 3 Omen Hawk here. You have the 3 Starlit Seer, and with the Starlit Seer, you have the spells to buff too. So Shared Spoils, we have a 3 of. We have the Mystic Shot. We have the Elixir of Iron is obviously huge in the beginning of the game to save Teemo and Starlit Seer. We have Trail of Evidence, which I freaking love as a card. I can't tell you how many times this card has let me go off with this deck, just chaining Trails of Evidence together and using it in conjunction with Insightful Investigator, which I happen to love as a card, by the way. I also play this card in aggro burn. Beyond that, we have the Shroom Engine. So we do have the 3 Puffcat Peddler. We do have the 3 Chump Wump to get some extra Shrooms in our hand if we need, as well as some extra spells. And Veteran Investigator is another good card that kind of combos well with the whole Shroom strategy, because it does make your opponent draw an additional card, which is actually good in this deck. Plus you draw a card too, which a lot of times this will help you get out of maybe kind of a crappy hand, or if you're kind of, you know, really low on resources later in the game and your opponent is, you know, up a few cards on you, this will help you kind of stay in the game a little bit towards the end of the game like that. And finally, I love this card, Submersible. It's funny, this card is actually This card is actually good for burn aggro matchups, because when you get this card down, it just allows you to keep poking damage against the burn aggro, and you can just block with everything else. It's really, I don't know, it's really interesting how that ended up working out against that specific deck. But otherwise, I love this card because the idea of this deck is, you know, Sejuani gets you that couple extra turns late game, right? Submersible costs less than Sejuani, so theoretically you're getting it down prior to Sejuani. And if you do get the buff of +4/+0, a 5-drop 5/5 elusive, and you get to draw a card, yeah, that sounds pretty good to me. Plus, the strategy is to go face. So if your opponent is not prepared for a 5/5 elusive, which they probably won't be playing around submersible, not gonna lie, then this is a quick 5 damage that towards the end of the game is probably gonna be just exactly what you need to get through to victory. So and then Get Excited, just as an extra note here, the Mystic Shot and the Get Exciteds in here usually are going to go face. At its core, this deck is a burn deck. So if you get a good draw early, if turns 1, 2, and 3 you curve out pretty well, a lot of times you're going to be just throwing Get Excited and Mystic Shots at your opponent's face, getting procs of Starlit Seer, getting procs of Puffcat Peddler, and then just ending the game by turn, 6 or 7. So yeah, super fun deck. I hope you guys enjoy the gameplay. We're going to go through 2 games. Again, the first one is mid-range Demacia, which is insane. Sejuani, frostbiting the whole field. Feels really good against the mid-range Demacia deck. And the second game, my opponent basically just ints. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. I don't know. You'll see. Let's get into the gameplay. All right, guys, and as always, the deck that we did just go through is going to be in the description below. Deck code and link on Mobalytics if you want to check it out. So this first game here, we have... All right, so this is a Demacia. It's basically mono Demacia. It has Shadow Isle Splash. I imagine that's because my opponent is playing, like, Rekindler or something. I'm not sure. I don't actually think we ever see any Shadow Isles cards. I guess we'll see as we go here. But we have the Dream, right? We have the Omen Hawk first hand. Honestly, getting Omen Hawk first hand or Teemo, it's obviously really, really good. Not only that, we have a buffed Teemo with the Omen Hawk. So both of these things combined usually spell disaster for the opponent. I am actually able to get rid of the Fiora here. Fiora is very dangerous against this deck because you have a lot of small units early on. It's very possible for your opponent to just use Fiora and wreck you with her win condition before you're even really able to do much of anything in regards to your strategy. So early game, what you really want to do is you want to somehow try to stabilize the board, which is, I will say, very hard against Demacia. I mean, you can see with their challenger units and stuff, it's going to be hard for me to get stuff to stick on the board. I am able to get an attack in with Teemo on my attack turn after he attacks with the challenger with the Hawk there, but it's not going to live too long. I mean, and now he's throwing down a Swiftwing Lancer, right? So it feels really bad. I mean, I know all my stuff is going to get challenged, but nonetheless, we have to start putting these units on the field. We have to get Puffcap down. We have to get Insightful Investigator down. And if we had a Starlit Seer, we'd have to be getting that down as well. So that's exactly why we play the second Puffcap Peddler. You basically, at this point, if you're playing a deck with a bunch of challenger units, you're basically saying, okay, I'm just going to put all of my units down that I need regardless because I just have too many things on the board for you to actually respond to, right? Because even if everything here dies, which it will, my Teemo's going to die. Actually, my Puffcat Peddler does not die because he decided to challenge the stronger one. Plus, I had a Elixir of Iron anyways. Even if he is able to kill some of my units, regardless, I'm going to have other stuff on the field. So even if he killed one of my Puffcat Peddlers, I would have had another one. I would have had an Insightful Investigator to kind of, start going off and playing those 2-cost spells. So that's something that you need to take into consideration. You can't care about losing these units early on. You gotta just YOLO it, put them on the board and say screw it, and then just hope that you're able to draw into what you need to draw into. And most of the time you can. Having the 3 Insightful Investigators in this deck and the other draw that you do inherently have with like shared spoils and stuff like that and the 1 copy of Rummage, you will usually be able to find what you need to find. What you need to do, if you are able to get some stuff to stick, as you can see here, you want to start setting up to go off, quote unquote. I keep saying go off, but basically just play your hand out, right? And what we're doing here is we're getting our Insightful Investigators down because we do have a trail of evidence in our hand so that we can play reactively to what our opponent does. You don't want to just play an Insightful Investigator and then start playing spells, especially on your attack turn. You almost always want to wait to play your spells until your opponent commits to killing your Insightful Investigators, killing your Puffcat Peddlers, things like that. Now, we're in kind of a tricky spot, and I'm not going to lie, this has happened to me multiple times with this deck. We draw the Sejuani as fleeting, and that really feels freaking bad, man. But it turns out that it ends up being the right decision with what we do here, and you're going to see in a second that I believe we do decide to play the Sejuani. I am going to get the Mystic Shot off, I believe, simply because if I play the Mystic Shot, I still have mana for Sejuani, and the Mystic Shot is essentially free, right? By playing the Mystic Shot, I'm not losing anything. It's going to leave my hand anyways. Oh, okay, I take it back. I actually didn't play the Mystic Shot. I'm curious as to why I might have done that. I think I just wanted to get the extra draw from my deck to kind of dig a little bit deeper. But either way, I do only play one of the 2-cost spells. Oh, you know what it is? Because of the Plunder. I wanted to make sure I got the Plunder off. But I did still have enough mana for the Sejuani. The Sejuani comes down, and I did the Jinx emote because they didn't draw a Puff Cap. So now I'm kind of in a situation where, okay, how the hell do I get damage onto my opponent's Nexus? The Insightful actually draws me into a Get Excited, and this is another reason why Get Excited and Mystic Shot is really good in this deck, because on the off chance, and I can't tell you how many times RNG has not worked in my favor for this freaking deck, where they don't draw a shroom when you need it. This is what Mystic Shot and Get Excited can do. They can do the Plunder, they can get the Sejuani leveled up. Now we're in a much better spot. And I actually considered attacking with the Sejuani here, because if you didn't know, when you do attack with Sejuani first and you do the damage with the Overwhelm, the first unit Sejuani attacks will not be frostbitten, but the remainder of the field will be. Essentially, I'm playing around repost there to make sure that I don't attack into a repost and then get screwed, lose my Sejuani or something like that. So I do wait, and I am rewarded because my opponent does draw a shroom on their turn, and now the fun begins. This is very... When you have a leveled Sejuani on the field with this deck, it's very difficult for your opponent to really do much of anything. I mean, right now I even have, it's actually technically another Sejuani in my hand to save my Sejuani if they try to kill it, but they're not going to be able to. They're kind of stuck here. My opponent does purify his own unit, so that is something to take into consideration for anybody out there who's wondering. Purify does technically remove Frostbite from your own unit. So if that's something you need to do, you can do it, but that's kind of a last-ditch effort. Wasn't really going to do much for him there. And when he sees the Teemo come down, or actually, no, when he sees himself get frostbitten again for the second time in a row, plus the Teemo, that's just scoop it up, man. You are good to go. So I will tell you, too, it's so tilting as the opponent of that deck, of this deck, to lose to a Sejuani and Teemo on the board, like, and just have your entire board frostbitten, because it literally feels like your cards are killing you. Like, your units are worthless, your deck is worthless, because when you draw, you take damage. So it's like, what do you do? So this next matchup, Bilgewater Freljord. So it turns out, I guess this is kind of like a keg control type deck. My opponent is playing Twisted Fate here. And all I can tell you is that throughout this game, they do a crap ton of drawing. So I don't know if you guys don't know, drawing is bad when you have shrooms in your deck. I repeat, drawing is bad when you have shrooms in your deck. Just in case you guys didn't know, because apparently my opponent did not know that drawing is bad when you have shrooms in your deck. You're going to see this in a little bit towards the end of the game here, where he just he basically ints and ends the game. So I will say, playing against Twisted Fate, like, usually you should lose this matchup. There's really no good way for you to deal with Twisted Fate, especially when your opponent is playing Freljord. Like, so if your opponent is not playing a class that can protect the Twisted Fate, you can usually just Mystic Shot it or Get Excited it, even a leveled up Twisted Fate. But in this case, he's playing Freljord. I know pretty much anything I try to target that Twisted Fate with is just going to not do anything, because he's going to Elixir of Iron or Fury of the North. I imagine he might play in this deck, things like that. So there's not really much I can do. So Twisted Fate being leveled up is going to wreck you, because there's just going to be so much removal, so many effects. Everything on your field is going to die probably within 2 turns of Twisted Fate being leveled up, and it feels really bad. So he starts playing the Twisted Fate's pick a card. It's questionable. It's questionable. He's got some shrooms. He's got 22 shrooms in his deck right now. Make that a few more, because I think another proc of Puff Cap just went off, and that's not good. So he's going to draw these cards. I think he takes something like 4 damage. He's like, okay, all right, I can understand maybe drawing to level up the Twisted Fate. I get it. All right, pick a card, deal with the 4 damage that comes through. You have a leveled Twisted Fate. You're going to draw off the blue card, but that's a small price to pay with how many shrooms are in his deck to try to clear the field. So I get from here on out not drawing anymore minus the blue card. I understand that. But it all starts to go downhill from here. Because this guy, I really don't understand why. Like, I guess... Oh, and he's playing Fizz too. So I guess kind of the point of this person's deck, from what I'm gathering anyways, is that they're trying to do something similar that I'm trying to do, which is buff with Starlit Seer and stuff, the Fizz in their deck, and attack with a big old Fizz, right? And then the Twisted Fate is kind of like a support guy because you are going to draw a lot. The Twisted Fate actually does get leveled up in this deck. You also draw with the, Jesus... What's the one that I play too? The Freljord Shared Spoils. That's the one. So you have a lot of draw effects that could potentially level up the Twisted Fate. So I understand where he's going with the deck, but I think just a slight miscalculation in drawing a little too much. You can see he played the Shared Spoils there. I would not have played the Shared Spoils. Like, once he's in a pretty commanding position, like you can see my opponent has like 6 or 7 cards in their hand. You just toss 2 because they're fleeting from the pick a card. But he's got 6 now. I've got 4. He's got a bigger field than me with a Twisted Fate to basically control everything that happens. And he's still drawing. Again, the blue card he can't really avoid, but he should not be playing anything else. So there's 3 more damage. I do have the level Teemo. You want to try to hold Teemo in your hand before you play it. You don't want to play him first, right? So I go ahead and I Frostbite the Fizz. That way he can't do any additional damage that I can't block. My blocks actually line up pretty well. You can see I have a ton of mana, and I'm actually, even though I could play stuff and trigger the Insightful Investigator, trigger the Puffcap Peddler, I'm not doing that yet. I am holding on until my opponent commits something else, because my stuff's still alive. The Insightful is alive. The Puffcap is alive. So same deal here. I'm going to play something so my opponent can't just pass, right? So I'm just going to go face. And again, the Mystic Shot, especially towards the end of the game, you're going to want to go face. By Frostbiting my Puffcap guy, or my Chumpwump, Puffcap guy, what the hell? He now makes my Insightful Investigator the strongest target for gold card. So now I have to play my hand. So now I start playing Trail of Evidence. I start playing everything in my hand. Try to get some more procs of the Puffcap Peddler. Try to get some more draws off the Insightful Investigator. You can see she's starting to chain draws together so I can get more 2-cost spells. Always feels good. And now I have another Sejuani. And yeah, he's low enough now to where he's probably going to draw way too many shrooms at one point. And he already shuffled with another picker card. The draw, the in. Why, man? Why'd you do it? Why'd you do it? All right, guys, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this Teemo Sejuani deck as much as I did playing it. Definitely try it out. I repeat, try it out in norms. Don't do ranked. You'll rage quit in ranked. You're gonna be like, why isn't this deck working? Just try it out in norms first. It takes a little bit of time to learn to pilot the deck too, but it is very fun. It's very rewarding when you do win. It's such a good feeling to Frostbite the entire field too, against, like you saw in that first game, of mid-range Demacia deck. So as always, everybody stay healthy, stay positive. I hope it just works for you, and peace out.